next. Let's bring in NewsNation legal contributor and criminal trial attorney Sara Azari. Jesse Weber is here as well. Sara, this is incredibly rare for a prosecution to decide to drop its own case.
Yeah, Elizabeth, good to be with you. I mean, listen, in 20 years of practice, it's never happened to me. It is stunning. That's the stunning aspect of the story, is the timing, in that this case was supposed to go to preliminary hearing, which is a probable cause hearing. That is really where both sides, but specifically prosecutors, get to test their witnesses and their evidence, and that sort of determines what this case will look like at trial. Now, I've been saying from the very beginning, there is no way Baldwin would be convicted. When I was probably the first person, I think I was the first person, to interview the prosecution's gun expert who would eventually testify at trial. It was obvious that this was a political charge, that they wanted, Santa Fe wanted to sort of have this celebrity on their wall of fame. The special prosecutor was sitting on the state legislature. She had a conflict of interest, and they were trying to make an example out of Alec Baldwin. And so I kept saying there's no way that he could get convicted. So the fact that they dismissed this before a very critical hearing to show that they have probable cause to proceed is stunning to me, because typically a motion to dismiss is made by the defense at the end of that hearing.
Right. And Jesse, this comes just a few weeks after a brand new prosecutor was appointed. I mean, we had the first one, she left. We had the DA who then stepped down, and a second special prosecutor appointed. It all sounds chaotic, is putting it politely.
I think an argument could be made this prosecution was doomed from the start. I mean, they didn't bring charges for over a year. We can't forget that the gun enhancement, which was a specific specification put on these charges that would have been a 5-year penalty if Alec Baldwin was convicted, that was dropped for a legal mistake made by the prosecutors. 2 of the prosecutors stepped down. It seems to me that they realized they couldn't make their case, as Sara was saying, with the preliminary hearing coming up. I think, though, that they have a way to spin this, and I'll tell you how. So the 2 prosecutors who stepped down, 2 new prosecutors came in. They could say, look, fresh set of eyes. We looked at this. We gave a fresh review. We realized there's more information here. We decided not to pursue. They are allowed to disagree with their predecessors, and I think at the end of the day, maybe that's how they wash their hands of this and say how they move on.
So is this the end of all legal jeopardy for Alec Baldwin?
Well, remember, he settled the civil lawsuit.
Right.
There is a possibility he might have to testify in the Hannah Gutierrez retrial if that actually ends up happening. The Russ story doesn't end with this. As we've just been talking about, how did live ammunition get on that set? How did it get in that gun? That's an answer we still don't have. And Alec Baldwin, even though he will no longer be facing charges, is still going to play a role in that story one way or another.
Sara, we heard from Nancy Liu just a moment ago that the attorneys for Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer on the movie set, were hinting that charges may be dropped against her as well. She is scheduled to go on trial on May 3rd, and she's pleaded not guilty. How does today's decision either way affect her prosecution?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Elizabeth. I think I want to know more about that gun and that new discovery or investigation that showed that there was something modified on that gun, because perhaps if she can show that it wasn't because of her criminal negligence that this gun was fired, but rather because of a modification made to the gun, and that she had nothing to do with, her checking the gun essentially would not have revealed that this gun was modified in some way.
Right,
maybe she could.
But Sara, isn't she's the armorer on the set? Isn't she in charge of the ammunition?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, she needs to know about the guns. She needs to know about how they're fired. She needs to do test firing. She needs to make sure they're not loaded. I mean, she is definitely the most culpable person, but I think her lawyers might be thinking that they could sort of point the finger to someone else who provided the gun. I'm not sure, but I would expect if anyone's supposed to be going to trial, it would be Hannah Gutierrez.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.